So we are live. I'm here with my friend Nick Krcic. If you want to introduce yourself, Nick, how are you
Hi, my
doing?
name is Nick Krcic.
And how are you
How are
doing?
you?
How are you doing? I know I've had you on my pre-recorded show, and it's always nice seeing you in the comments. It's nice chatting with you once in a while on the phone. What did you want to talk about with me today?
My favorite topic, anything to do with God.
Yeah,
um, Especially, it's a weird thing to me is I'm not around many people. I won't take away the few that are there, like my wife, of course, you know, and I have my cousin Peter. He likes to talk, and my brother likes to talk about God as well. And I have one cousin, Johnny, right? But other than that, like it's hard to find people that hold interest or that are willing to even talk about God. It's weird. A lot of people get like, oh, that's kind of private, or that's kind of, I don't know how, I don't understand why it got to that point, but that's kind of where it is with most people. It's
yeah,
almost like religion is just private, let's not talk about it. So
yeah.
it's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, all I really ever want to talk about is God, religion, and at the outer extreme, philosophy, ideas, and stuff like that. But most people are mired in politics and
Yeah.
pop culture, stuff like that. I am really not interested. You know, I can enjoy conversations about anything as long as the person is excited, but I don't have a lot to contribute it unless it's about first things and God and morality and stuff like that. But I just don't have a lot to contribute. I can contribute from my angle, but my angle is always the same angle, and it tends to be a bit of a conversation killer if you're bringing in the Catholic perspective, right? Don't you find?
hmm I agree, man. I agree. It's funny. I'm kind of meeting new people too. I'm kind of awkward because I don't find interesting what most people talk about. I mean, most people, like they talk about sports or they'll talk about movies or they'll talk about. And again, I could talk about that stuff, but only very little. You know what I mean? It's like, and so I'm kind of not the best. Person to talk to. If I'm first meeting you, it's very short, very short,
Yeah.
So maybe I'm the awkward one. I don't know, but I like to talk about the important stuff, the stuff that matters. But
Yeah. So, what have you been thinking about, or what have you been praying about? What have you been reading about? What are you excited about with your faith journey these days?
I've been enjoying praying for everybody that needs it and not myself. Like I've almost been excluding myself totally, and to me that's been exciting. Almost like God has gave me the grace to be, selfless and and not think about myself, but I'm too busy thinking about whoever needs and whoever's having problems right now or trouble to remember to pray for them. And I've been doing a lot of praying, and it's unbelievable how we don't know and see what happens when we pray, but if we knew, I believe none of us would ever let 1 hour go by without praying. I would say not even 10 minutes, but but I believe that it is like it's like the most important and the only way. It's like if I try to call you without a cell phone, it won't work, right? And prayer is our cell phone directly to the body of Christ. So, you
Absolutely.
know.
I mean, we're told to pray without ceasing, to pray constantly, and I'm always praying. Not praying well, but to the capacity that I'm able to pray, I'm always praying. I'm always thinking about God, and because I don't need to worry about God's salvation, I tend to think about the salvation of myself and those who are close to me in space or in time and in any other way. And so it's just a natural thing when you know what ultimate reality is in terms of salvation history and our place in salvation history, even though it's a bit vague and fuzzy and we see darkly as in a broken mirror, as St. Paul says, we live in the obscurity of faith, but at least we have the gift of faith. Even if we just have a small spark or a little tiny flame, we can focus on that. We can begin with that, and we can start our journey toward God and toward heaven. And here in this fallen world, it's not easy. There's lots of opposition. I'm always surprised when people oppose such wholesome teachings. For example, when it comes to the issue of life, I mean, there's a lot of talk now with Trump doing his talk at the March for Life. I'm just surprised that everyone isn't pro-life. I don't understand how you cannot be pro-life, but I'm very happy and excited that Donald Trump spoke at the March for Life. What did you make of that? Not that we want to talk about politics, but what did you make of that gesture that he made?
I didn't see it. I missed it.
Okay.
I did not see it.
Yeah, well, yeah. It was a nice speech about life, and every life is precious. And he actually, I don't know if he slipped up or if he he said it on purpose, but he said that every human life is divine. I think that might be putting it a little bit in extreme terms, but maybe there was a little confusion when he said that, or maybe he's really channeling something deep and mystical about divination and theosis, and maybe he's been reading up a little bit on mystical Christianity, but I'm not sure about that.
Right. Yeah, I missed it. So I'm not interested too long for it for some reason. I never was, and I'm not, but
my point was, with Catholic teachings, they're so wholesome and they're so universally valid across space and time, with the 10 Commandments, with the principles of life and, the principles of freedom, and even, more sophisticated principles like the principle of subsidiarity in governance. I think these are principles that withstand the test of time, and that are good and universally valid, and that could be appreciated. So I'm always surprised when people have alternative points of view which fly in the face of well-established Catholic principles. But maybe that's just me, and maybe everyone with their worldview has their cherished set of principles, dogmas, axioms, and I'm sure that's what accounts for a lot of the bickering on social media. People do have a point of view, and they like to, suggest it. I guess that's one word we could use. Suggest it to those around them that it's the best point of view. And certainly you and I are guilty of that. We think that our point of view, our Catholic point of view, is the best point of view, right?
Right. What do you think about, what do you think about abortion when it comes to the big picture? Like, for example, I was trying to make sense of all of it. Like, I pray and believe and think that those souls go straight into the arms of God. And then I try to make sense of, well, what's Satan's agenda on this? If they're shooting straight to heaven, I'm like, I wonder what then he's getting out of it. And then all that came to mind was, God has a plan, for each and every one of us. And when that child is aborted, they couldn't go through with their plan, right? So that just takes away, Satan is happy to take anything away from God. So he's happy to just take that away, and that pleases him, even though if that soul of that, the baby goes straight into the arms of God, into heaven. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I trust in the mercy of God, so I don't worry about. I don't really worry about anyone's salvation. I mean, the extent that I worry about it really is just to pray for those who are still making their decision, like they're still alive today. But I don't worry about those who are already dead, whether they were innocent babies in the womb or whether they were, nasty characters from history like Hitler, whatever. I don't worry about it, but I trust in the mercy of God. But everything is glorifying God, and everything that happens, God allows to happen. Either he positively ordains it or he allows it. So Satan is constantly chuckling to himself with all his little mini victories, but he's also wincing in pain, because when he really steps back and looks at what's happening in the war, it might seem like he's winning a few skirmishes here and there, but in the big picture, he's always losing. He's always serving God's will. this is the most frustrating thing about being the enemy of God, is that it's a lose-lose situation. And you can psychologically fool yourself in the short term into thinking, yeah, I got one over on God and I hurt one of his children. But if you're an enemy of God and you think that way, in the back of your mind always is that idea that God's a winner, I'm a loser, and everything I do is serving God's plan. And really, this is a futile battle. I'm a loser, So there's a very thin and false happiness that accompanies all of the enemies of Christ in his church, and people are aware of that to greater and lesser extents, obviously. And in the case of Satan, I think he's acutely aware of it, and I think he's suffering a lot with every so-called victory that he has. There's always a price to be paid with every victory. He personally pays a price every time, but he's just compulsively and hatefully harming others, and in the process harming himself, because he can't help himself. He doesn't have the freedom that we have to repent and to go back to God. So it's tragic on so many levels, and it's like one of those fractal images where it's just the pattern within the pattern within the pattern within the pattern. And if you look at abuse in this world, like parent to child, child to grandchild, and you see the way that sexual abuse, for example, is passed on in this habitual pattern because people want to heal those wounds. Here in this fallen world among humans, we have a chance to heal, but Satan and his demons, they don't have a chance to heal, but they're still caught in that fractal image where it's the pattern within the pattern within the pattern, and they just can't get out. They can't get healing. They can't get satisfaction, because ultimately only God satisfies, and they know that. And so it's a horrible, horrible situation they're in.
Yeah. Wow. I kind of feel like that I kind of see it like that for where Satan thinks he's getting somewhere even in the church. If there was a few, priests or even Pope that, let's say, they had an evil agenda or whatever, like he thinks he's actually getting somewhere, forgetting, I guess, God is in control, That actually brings me to a point that I wanted to mention. Okay. What do you think about the overall, because you're familiar with seat of vacantism and all that, so
Yeah.
So what do you think about Vatican II? Do you think there's something there that these people, these seat of vacantists, are veering away from the church and all this? Do you think there's something there? Not that their position is correct, but more that, is there something there since Vatican II that some evil has crept up and twisted things around, and the devil thinks he's getting somewhere right now and all that, but God is still in control. He's just allowing this to play out. And like, for example, the third secret of Fatima and all that ties in. Like, what do you think about all that as a whole? Is there something there?
Well, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity for those who want to stumble to stumble. I mean, this is why we refer to Jesus Christ as the stumbling stone. And like, I think about the scriptures, like there's plenty of fodder in the scriptures to act as stumbling stones. If you want to stumble, you can stumble, right? And it's the same thing with the ecumenical councils, and they are one of the four manifestations of the church's infallibility, ecumenical councils. So I submit to the Second Vatican Council. I was just reading the documents today. They're beautiful documents. Do they contain ambiguities because of the politics, left, right, and all that nonsense? Yeah, of course, there are ambiguities there, but God is able, in his infinite wisdom and power, to communicate the essential saving truths and to clarify essential saving truths through the midst of all of that left-right politics nonsense, which colors everything, right? At least in our contemporary world, and certainly since the 50s and 60s. And so, yeah, I see the ecumenical councils as divinely protected from teaching error concerning faith and morals. And I was just reading some of the documents today, and I have always found them beautiful and edifying, and very traditional, obviously, because you can't break with tradition. That's what the church is. The church is indefectible. It will never break from tradition. If it does, then it's not the church. So yeah, I think there's plenty of fodder there. If you want to read into the ambiguity and start a little fight with the so-called Novus Ordo church, you're free to do that. That's the danger. That's the danger of having free will, is that you are free to make a fool of yourself, and you are free to abandon Jesus Christ and his church. And you are free to call that movement the Catholic Church if you want to. There are plenty of people starting different religions, and they're attaching the word Catholic to it, right? So, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Every ecumenical council had heretics before, during, and after the council that were claiming that they were holier than the Catholic Church, and that they represent the one true religion, the one true church. So you can, I did a meta episode on that, the pros and cons of sedevacantism. If you haven't heard it, you can go and listen to it. But it talks about one or two examples of different heresies for each of the ecumenical councils, and how they thought they were superior.
Was it them and only them thought that they were? I'm not gonna lie, I love that video, man. Even the music you put to it was just, I love that one.
That's the one.
But go ahead. That was good. That was really good.
So that's my main point. That's my main point. There's nothing new under the sun. If you want to stumble, go ahead and stumble. I mean, you won't be the first, you won't be the last, and God will be waiting there for you to repent and come back to him. I mean, it's just that simple. There's nothing complicated.
What do you think about the third secret of Fatima? Was there something there? Do you believe we've gotten that the right message, or is it still hidden?
I don't know. I don't really care. I mean, I trust the church, and I'm not obsessed with any private revelation. I put public revelation number one, and private revelation, if it inspires me and edifies me, as Lourdes and Fatima and Guadalupe do, and different, all of the approved apparitions do inspire me, my faith, and they do edify me. And so I draw on whatever edifies me, and I ignore whatever's controversial and conspiracy theories that are swirling around, particularly the third secret of Fatima. I just completely ignore it, because I know that that's how Satan likes to get people embroiled in distraction. I know that. From experience. So just don't get embroiled. I mean, if there's something that's obviously Catholic in any private revelation that's been approved by the church, run with it, be inspired by it, and let your faith be built up by it. Otherwise, if there's any doubt, if there's any sort of hint that maybe this is a conspiracy theory, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. That's my personal opinion.
Got it. Okay. All right. When you were, that made me think of a question for you. When you still believed in evolution, and you heard the anti-evolutionist, did you look at that as a conspiracy theory for the moment?
I never believed in evolution. Even as an atheist, I never believed in it. I just believed that it was the overwhelming consensus of natural science. And isn't that amusing? And isn't that perplexing? And I didn't feel compelled to commit to that. I didn't feel compelled to say, well, okay, it's the consensus, therefore I have to believe it. No, I'm free. Even as an atheist, I knew that I was free. And I distinctly remember being at a party in university when I was young, and talking with friends, and they were talking about how we evolved from apes. And I said, well, I don't believe that, And they all paused and looked at me like I was an ape, ironically. But I didn't subscribe to it. I mean, I knew that it was the dominant hypothesis or the dominant story, but I just didn't have any good reason to buy it. I mean, I didn't have I hadn't examined the evidence and concluded that I must believe it, right? And I'm not a biologist. I was studying physics. And I certainly didn't want to believe it. It's not something I was ever predisposed to believe. Like, oh, goody, my ancestors are brutes. It never ever appealed to me. So I would say that I never believed in evolution. I don't know how many people today can say that, especially atheists, but that was the case for me.
No, you could add me on the list too. We used to make fun of it in my household. I remember since, I was 5 years old, and my older brother hearing that and us laughing about it. Not that I knew too much when I was 5, but what I'm saying is we never believed it in the house. You know what I mean? It was just funny. It was always funny. Yeah, the atheists were something to laugh at for us, and the evolutionists were something to laugh at for us always. So.
Yeah. So what other related topics do you want to talk about? Because I know a lot of people, since I sort of came out of the closet as a Young Earth Creationist, Because that I did subscribe to, that I did fully endorse. Back in June or July of this year, I fully endorsed Young Earth Creationism, as you know. And a lot of people come forward and say, well, then you must believe in the firmament and the fixed lights in the stars and in the sky and the waters above and the flat Earth and this and that and the other thing, and geocentrism and everything else. So are there any related topics there that you want to explore and question me about, or no?
Yeah. Overall, I just believe that there is a lot that we don't fully understand, and I've learned we can't trust the people in charge, the scientists, what they say really. We can't really trust them too much. Starting by evolution, you look and they'll tell you evolution is a fact, right? But so I feel like there's a lot of that. I feel like at the end of the day, we don't know. They don't know exactly how this Earth works. They don't know. They don't understand it as much as they claim to understand it, right? They don't. Say when it comes to the firmament, yeah, I believe there is a firmament, but what is it exactly? You know what I mean? Like we don't know. But here's my belief. I believe that the stars and the sun and the moon that we see is not as far as they say it is. Distance wise, I believe it's a lot closer. And at the end of the day, I just believe and trust what God says, right? So it's kind of like I kind of will search the scriptures more for it, though I know there could be error in my personal interpretation. But I do see that something is going on to where either we're not being told, it's being hidden, or they simply don't know. They don't know, and they're acting like they know or whatever. But it's kind of like we don't know exactly what this earth is, how it looks, or I mean, like fully. It's funny. I kind of don't know where to start because it gets kind of you got to touch on a lot of ends to explain it correctly, right? So I'm not going to go into the whole thing here, right? But at the end of the day, I say that everything we see in the sky appears to be smaller than the Earth. The Earth is it's the only land out there. It's the only, terra firma is the word they use. Like the stars we see in the sky is not terra firma that you could kind of go land on. It'll be more to how the Bible explains them. And I think it's like, in a way, angelic form or something. But this is my belief, and I think the earth is it's almost like if you want to look at it as a realm, the earth is a realm. This is all that is. And it's not an empty vastness of space with all kinds of stuff, and there's nothing bigger than the earth except God, is my belief. So
Okay.
and I know that's a whole other topic, and whatever, but that's what I believe.
And are you open with that? Because I'm sure if you're open with it, you're going to get mocked and ridiculed even more than young Earth creationists, right?
Yep, I know it. Yep. That's why I kind of don't like to be, too open about it, because I know what happens. I was there. I was on the other side, and the moment I heard somebody saying flat Earth, it's like your brain does some and rejects it right away. It's almost like hearing the sky is purple, or it's like, what, the grass is black. It's like, what? It's an instant rejection. But it's crazy when you look into the evidence. Here's all I've come to see: Satan is at work, and he's been working hard for a long time, and he's working through the people that love money, love fame, love power. Okay, so now, if now we can start to see who those people are. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it's so clear that Satan's been working on the deception, many deceptions for a long time, and I feel like he's gotten into those, the top dogs, the top guys, from scientists to who, whoever else. But at the end of the day, it just brought me closer to God. I trust God completely, um, and I don't believe all of what the scientists say and what modern science says, you know. But I won't get into it because it takes a while to see. But the evidence actually, it's insane. The evidence is, it matches what our eyes see actually. Like the sun and the moon, they look to be the same size. Um, Probably because they really are the same size. Now, this is again my opinion, and somebody hearing this could write me off as an idiot if you'd like. You know what I mean? But when you look at the evidence, you'll be shocked. Like jumping right into geocentrism, it's like you look into the evidence, it shows that this world is a geocentric world. Okay, all the evidence actually says that. It's all the theories that kind of don't say it, but the evidence and the actual science experiments really say this place is not moving. It's not spinning, twirling, swirling. Um, None of that's going on. It's actually stationary, and all the actual experiments said that. You know, so if one could believe that, then it's kind of like, okay, well, but NASA has pictures of the Earth spinning, right? Okay, so it's kind of like you kind of got to see that there's just some deception going on, man. That's all I can tell you. And I don't want to send I don't like to send nobody down no conspiracy rabbit holes, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it. We will know what we're supposed to know. God will give us what we're supposed to know. But I believe that there's a deeper reason. It's kind of like how evolution, when someone believes in evolution, it kind of like they don't realize how it pulls you away from God, right? Evolution, you start discrediting the Bible just a little bit, and you start giving your trust within science just a little more, right? People don't see that happening, but that's what's happening. It's kind of goes same with the heliocentric model in a way. They have told us they've gone into space and all they see is the blackness of space, when the Bible kind of actually says right above these close stars and the close sun and moon all within the firmament, it's all God after that. It's all heaven. That's his territory, you know? And it's kind of like, so what does that do, the heliocentric model? You kind of put your trust more in NASA and modern science, and then you guys say, well, we don't see God, so, and then it puts God so far away, almost like imaginary. You got to just really imagine, just, to picture God somewhere. We don't know where he is, but within a geocentric model, but I feel the geocentrics don't have the distance of the stars, right? You just put a firmament there, and everything is roughly the same distance away, okay? And right above that is our Lord's throne, you know. And it's funny when you look in the Bible. I mean, it does make it pretty clear. The firmament is translated to a molten mirror. It says hard. It's hard. It's firm. Well, that's where the word firmament comes from, right? I mean, it gets pretty specific. It just says it's like a mirror, and a molten hard mirror. And when you start looking into those, you're kind of like, wow, it kind of gets to you a little bit, and makes you think deep. But yeah, but that's
Well, I mean, I believe the Earth and the universe is about 7,000-8,000 years old, and that seems ridiculous to 99.9% of humans walking the Earth today.
yeah.
I would be open to geocentrism. I don't happen to believe it, but I'm open to it. And the next, the next step from that would be some sort of firmament and a flat Earth and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not buying any of that yet, but I haven't looked into it. I'm open to everything. I
Yeah.
do, I did interview Flat Earth Runner. Did you listen to that episode?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. You can check it out. He painted a nice picture of the firmament and how Jesus is right above us, so close, and it's that kind of proximity that attracts me to the this whole vision that you have. I don't buy it, but I mean I haven't looked into it either.
Yeah.
You've sent me lots of stuff. I just haven't had time to look at it because I'm not interested. If you sent me stuff that I'm more interested in, I would have looked into it by now, but I'm just not that interested. But I'm glad that some people are going down that rabbit hole, as you say. And, I encourage you to follow the truth wherever it leads. And I don't know I don't know what sort of theological or magisterial weight you have behind your geocentrism and behind your the firmament stuff. I mean, obviously there are certain passages in scriptures you could draw on for any of these theories, but I'm not as motivated as I was with the Young Earth Creationism. So I'm just being honest with you. I appreciate the path you're going down, but I'm just not there with you. But anything could happen. Obviously, I'm open. I am very open. I think I'm more open-minded than 99.9% of humans walking the earth today. Just because I put God first, and whatever reality is, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I have very little faith in secular science. I have very little faith in it. I think that there's we can make nice toys and gadgets and communication devices and stuff like that, and that's all real. And I studied quantum physics at university. I have my name on a published paper in a peer-reviewed journal, a respectable quantum electronics journal. I have experience with hard science. I've worked at the Canadian Space Agency. I've worked in hard science. I respect hard science, but I don't have a lot of faith in the politics and the philosophy, the bad philosophy that's connected with secular science. I just don't have a lot of faith in it because we can be blinded by our assumptions and by our axiomatic fundamental positions that we take philosophically, and then we interpret everything, all of the data. We always interpret all of the data in a way that conforms with those fundamental assumptions. So we're all guilty of that. But once you become a monotheist, once you put God first, then that set of axioms is more wholesome and it's more well-grounded. And as Jesus Christ said, if you don't build on the rock, you're building on shifting sand, you're doomed. Your house is doomed to fall, right?
Yep. Oh, it's so funny. I thought you were a geocentrist. Do you believe in the heliocentric model or what?
Well, I never believed in evolution, and I don't have a strong belief in the heliocentric model. I mean, I have to admit that I do want to believe in geocentrism. I just haven't looked into it, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I would prefer, obviously I would prefer geocentrism. I think it makes more sense from a Christian perspective. It makes more sense, right?
Yep.
Am I excited about it? A little bit. Am I excited enough to look into it? Not really. I mean, I looked at a couple of videos by that Catholic geocentrist who's very popular right now. Do you remember his name?
Catholic geocentrist. I mean, besides Robert
Sungenis.
Robert Sungenis.
That's
other
it.
than
That's
that, no. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and it's funny. I applaud him for shooting for that. But it's funny how we were talking about the flat Earth. He hates the flat Earth. That's so funny, and it's so funny. Here's my opinion on why he hates the flat Earth so much. Is because it's simple. Is because he has at least a scientific method. Geocentrism is a scientific method, right? And he wants to hold on to that the same way evolutionists want to hold on to the evolution theory, because it's a scientific method. They feel it makes them feel a little more like they're on the right side, I guess. You know what I mean? And that's what I believe. It's like that Catholic that believes in evolution. He just feels better holding on to evolution because of all the scientists. That's what they say. So.
Yeah, I am certainly not afraid to be considered a weirdo. Like, I mean, if I come to believe in geocentrism, that'll be a very easy pill to swallow for me. Very, very easy. The firmament and the flat Earth. That's going to be. I'm going to be phoning you up right away, and like, oh my God, this is exciting. That would be.
It's
That would be
funny.
next level. That would be next level. But I mean, it is a nice idea. I mean, to have that proximity with Jesus and Mary, who are in the flesh. And how far up do you think the dome is, the firmament?
You know, I can't say. I can't say. As for this actual distance, I don't know. I don't know. But I'll tell you, all the evidence kind of says this, and the Bible kind of makes it pretty clear when you look into Job and you look. But here's the thing: I hate the words "flat Earth." I hate them words because I was there. I know what those two words do, and I know what happens when somebody says they believe in a flat Earth. It's a flat. Look at this idiot, right? I mean, it's like an instant reaction. But I could even see why that reaction comes about when you understand we were taught this our whole life, right? I mean, the earth is round just like the grass is green. This is what we've been taught, right? But when you actually see that there's room there for a full out blown deception. And no, I'm not saying every worker at NASA is in on it. You know, to make a small analogy, if McDonald's was poisoning us, does that mean all of the workers are in on it? No, it's the ones that are just preparing the food, right? Okay, this would be the same method when it comes to if NASA's in on anything. It's just the top dogs. The rest are working off of a computer, right? A computer data, and the computer tells them what reality is in a way. You know what I mean? You know, when they're told light years are a real thing, well, then guess what? They believe light years are a real thing. You know what I mean? But when you see there's actual room for a deception there, and it could be done, and Satan is that good, you know. Here's all I want to say. I don't care about flat Earth. I don't like them words. But here's what I believe. This place, the devil's working hard to take anything away from us. And our home here, the way the Lord made this place, is beautiful, and he even wants to take that away. So if he can, he will, you know. And this place is not what we're being told, from the size, the shape, the angles, from where we come from where we're going when we die. All of that Satan's been working to take away from God. So that's what I see. So that's why I trust God so much, and it's hard for me to believe what modern science says overall. You know,
For sure.
so
Yeah, I think we need to be skeptical. I mean, I have a lot of education in physics, and that obviously is making it seem very unlikely that geocentrism or the firmament or whatever you want to call the flat Earth, any of that is true. But I mean, like I said, I'm open, and I'm open-minded, and I don't think you're a weirdo. I mean, if anything, I
appreciate it.
If anything, I sort of envy the proximity that you have. I mean, I'm always looking for proximity. But when you're speaking of NASA, it kind of reminded me of an old friend of mine, Matthew Boylan, Matt Powerland. Do you know of him? He has
No.
the NASA channel. He's a stand-up comedian and an actor from Canada. He moved down to the States, but he's got a popular flat Earth movement. He claims to have pioneered the flat Earth movement, and there's lots of bickering in that community. And he admits to being a stand-up comedian, an actor, and an entertainer. But he seems to also believe in flat Earth and chemtrails and all this sort of thing. And he he claims to have worked for NASA, that he's the one that painted what looks like the globe image of the Earth, and it's just a painting. And you can check him out, Math Powerland, or the NASA channel, or Matt Boylan. You can look him up. He was supposed to come on my show, but he hasn't contacted me. Actually, he unfriended me on Facebook. I'm not sure why. I'm gonna have to reach out to him and find out why. Yeah, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and there's a lot of disinformation, and you have to be aware that Satan can deceive us, but he can also deceive us by drawing us into wacky and weird conspiracy theories. So I want you to be, I want you to be very cautious. Be very cautious about that angle of Satan too. Like, take you too far.
That's right. No, I'm actually, I cut you off because I have to say this. I'm actually done with conspiracy theories, right? And it's like they're actually the worst. They're worse because it puts this paranoia and fear in people, right? And this is what God saved me from when I told you I said that prayer, right? Okay, no weapons formed against us will prosper. What? I was in an 8-month conspiracy theory zone, right? Okay. And he said, and I was so full of fear and paranoia, and everybody's out to get me. And it's so funny, though there could be so much truth to that, it don't matter, because when you trust in God, who cares, right? Who cares about who's after you or what's going on or it's like when you trust God, you no longer fear, right? And it's like, so I definitely don't recommend anybody to start searching conspiracy theories or anything like that. My point was, when you look at the actual evidence, I said, reality and actual science experiment says something other than the heliocentric model. And that's all I want to say, because, this flat earth thing, it caused a lot of problems. There's been divorces. There's been literally, because one person has discovered this truth that the earth is not what we're being told, while the other has has that, oh my God, my husband or my wife has gone mad. You know what I mean? And so it's like, so I beware anybody from it. And all it did for me to realize that this place could be not what we're being told, right? From the spinning to the shape to the size to the distance of the stars to what they are to, again, where we came from and what all of that, it's like this glass kind of shattered and I could see clear, and all I could see is the Lord there, kind of, and to trust him through no matter what. And it's that's the best feeling in the world. I like, somewhere where you could lay down comfortably at night knowing you trust the Lord the most over everything. It's a very special, and it's an amazing thing to have, and I pray for anybody and everybody to have that. It really is.
Absolutely. I mean, that's my focus as well. I mean, that's why I don't get too excited about the evolutionists coming at me, or because I've hosted this talk today, they're going to say, we were right, you're a whack job, you believe in the firmament and all that sort of thing. But I mean, I don't fear any of that ridicule or disdain from those who are enemies of Christ and His church. I mean, it's like you said, once you know who and what God is, and once you know that you have a relationship with Him, I mean, you welcome suffering, you welcome death, you welcome ridicule, disdain, you welcome whatever comes from God's hand, and He's allowing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. If He doesn't positively ordain it, He's allowing it for the highest good, for your highest good and for my highest good. How can He orchestrate it so that everything that happens is optimized, not just for me, not just for you, not just for our loved ones, not just for our enemies, but for every human that ever lived? How can He dynamically optimize everything to be perfectly, maximally optimized for our own individual salvation and eternal happiness? How can He do that? We have no idea, but we just need to trust that He's omnipotent, He's infinitely wise and infinitely merciful, infinitely just, and He can do it. I mean, it's mind-boggling. The atheists can laugh, but we'll have the last laugh when we're up in heaven and we're enjoying God's life, and hopefully the atheists will be there with us, right?
Right. To change the topic quick, what do you think? Have you ever read any of the Book of Enoch, and do you know of any early church fathers, if they believed in and quoted the Book of Enoch?
I know I met a scholar who was specializing in the Book of Enoch. I haven't read it. I am interested in it because my guest Flat Earth Runner mentioned it. He said I would really enjoy it because of the references to Noah, and I'm a big fan of Noah. And so I'm interested in reading it. I don't think I even have it on my Kindle yet, but I will, after this interview, I'll make a point of acquiring maybe a PDF copy, slap it on my Kindle and look into it. But what is it about the Book of Enoch that you think I might find interesting, other than all the talk of Noah, my favorite patriarch?
Oh, it verifies about the firmament, the stars, what they are, exactly how they work, how the sun, moon, and stars work, how everything, it verifies and totally slams, the heliocentric model and throws it in the garbage and says it's not real. It tells us how exactly movements of the sun, of the moon, of everything. And here's the thing. If that book is not expired, well, then who cares what it says, right? But then I heard early church fathers, there was a ton of them that believed in the Book of Enoch. So that kind of shocked me, and I just heard that a few days ago. So I was curious if you knew about it or not.
No, I'm not aware of that. I'm going to look into it. That's the kind of thing I'm interested to look into. But certainly, just because it's not inspired doesn't mean it that we should ignore it. And like I said, a Catholic scholar that I know is making his whole PhD just on the Book of Enoch, and there are thousands of scholars who are doing just that. So we have to take it seriously, and all of the early texts in and around the early Christian movement, we have to take them seriously because they do contain some part of the Catholic truth, right? To what extent, I don't know. God only knows.
Yeah. It tells us what the stars are. He gives name for the certain stars, which ones are in charge. Because what he says in that book is they're angelic. They're in angelic form. They're angels, and so. And it's so funny when you grab that telescope and you look at these stars, they kind of look and act nothing like of the images that are in our textbooks and in our science books and that are on the NASA's website. So that's just another thing, another red flag there. But it's pretty amazing in that book. I haven't read the whole thing, but what I did read, it totally supports of the domament firm, the firmament, the dome, all of that. It totally, so it gets very specific and in detail, But
I mean, I don't know if it's a Catholic doctrine or not, but I do believe that all of the material universe is governed and managed by angels, so that every spin of every quark in the universe is being managed and governed by angels. I think one angel could do the whole material universe just because they move at the speed of thought, and they can accomplish the management of every molecule in the universe from beginning to end. But it might be a team of angels, or different shifting teams of angels. I don't have any source to support my belief, but I do believe that angels obviously are involved in doing God's work of sustaining the entire universe, the material, the animate and inanimate parts of this material world, like even our fleshy bodies. I think there are angels involved in governing what the quantum scientists are examining, and they think it's some cold, dead fundamental particles, but I think that they're alive with the life of God and the instructions of God to maintain in his providence the well-ordered universe that we live in, which allows science to take place in the first place. So I think we're going to be blown away at the final judgment when we see how God's world works. And
that's right.
You're putting yourself out on a limb by going a little bit further out than I am willing to go right now. But it's not nearly as wacky and weird as the ultimate reality actually is. At the final judgment, we're going to say, Nick's ideas were a little bit strange, but not too strange compared to the actual reality. The actual reality is way more fabulous, way more interesting, and way more wacky and weird from our mundane perspective, because we are blinded by sin. We're blinded by Satan and his demons, and Satan and his demons don't want us to appreciate the wonder of God's creation and the wonder of the natural world. He wants to dumb it down into something boring, something predictable, and something where God's not involved. at
That's
all.
right.
So
That's right.
I think the complete opposite is the case. I think that God is intimately involved in everything, and we're going to get to
Yep.
see that at the final judgment. That's my hunch. I don't have magisterial documents to back me up. I mean, I could look into it and see if the fathers talk about this sort of thing. But I know that in the Middle Ages they talked about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, but I have no idea if that's a true anecdote or if that's just sort of a mockery of the Catholic theologians at that time.
Right. Probably a mockery, but who knows? But do you believe in that giants were on this earth the way the Bible says? And if so, what do you think? What do you or do you believe in giants at all?
Sure, why not? I have no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, I firmly believe in the longevity of the pre-flood patriarchs. Is that what they called?
Mm-hmm.
I have absolutely no doubt about that. I mean, if it turns out not to be the case, that's fine. God can tell me, at the final judgment, if that was not the case, if that was some sort of colorful exaggeration in scripture, that's fine. But I happen to believe in the longevity of, Adam and Eve and those patriarchs before the flood, and I believe in, I take a lot of Genesis a lot more literally than most people do, as you know. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to go to hell because I took the Bible too literally, right?
Right. And it's funny, of course, there are some things that we shouldn't take the Bible literal, let's say later, but I'm sorry, Genesis is more of a literal account. Like, you know what I mean? It really is. I mean, so it's kind of like, and yeah, I guess I was going to touch on something, but I guess I'll leave that alone. But anyways, I was just going to say, yeah, definitely, I believe in the Tower of Babel and that was literal.
Yeah.
Giants were literal, all of that. So, and it just fits right in. I mean, look how funny. There's a passage at the end of the world in Revelation. He says, God is going to peel the sky back like a scroll. Right? I mean, if that passage don't fit the firmament, I mean, I don't know what does. You know what I mean? Like, and all the stars are going to fall to the earth as like of a fig tree, right? So you picture the figs falling from a tree, right? The stars will fall from heaven, it says, to the earth like that of a fig tree. So it's kind of like, right? The figs are smaller than the tree, and that, I mean, and not just that. I mean, okay, but that's the Book of Revelation, fine, right? There's of course some things that are poetic or more, what's the word I'm looking for? But not as literal, right? Yeah, allegorical and stuff. But when you go to Genesis, Job kind of tells us how this place is, and I think it's God talking. But in the book of Job, he tells us. And it's funny. I mean, he tells us the shape of this place too. So, but I'm gonna leave it there and leave it for whoever wants to read it. But how about I was gonna ask you about let's see. Oh, how about with you? Anything new with you that you've been reading lately that you've been enjoying?
Yeah, I just read a nice book by one of my listeners, actually, Scott L. Smith. You can check out his book on Amazon. I read his book. I gave a nice review. It was a nice, very nice short book on praying the Rosary with Saint John Paul II. Really nice book. It compiles some of the teachings of Saint John Paul II, and of course, Saint John Paul II is the one that gave us the luminous mysteries, right? So there's a lot there to gather inspiration for your daily rosary. I highly enjoyed that. It was a quick read. And then I just went straight back to what I've been reading for the past few weeks and maybe even months now, which is the Philokalia, which is a large collection of writings from the 4th century to the 15th century, roughly. And it's the Desert Fathers, Eastern, what do you call those people that go to live off on their own? Hermits and these hermit people. But the wisdom of the Desert Fathers is very powerful because it's very simple. It focuses on three main vices, three main demons, they call them, okay? So the acronym for it is G.A.S. You can remember it like if you say I have gas. So I have gluttony, I have avarice, and I have self-esteem. These are the three primary demons that we need to be aware of. If we want to conquer vice and if we want to grow in virtue, we need to get rid of our gas, our gluttony, our avarice, and our self-esteem. So gluttony.
What's avarice?
Avarice is wanting possessions, money, and all the worldly possessions and this sort of thing. Gluttony is the cause, according to the Desert Fathers. They drill this in over and over again. Gluttony with food is the cause of a lot of unchastity. So if you have, for example, I get wet dreams a lot, so I don't like it. I used to enjoy it when I was transitioning from atheist to Catholic because I didn't have to masturbate, and I got all the pleasure at night in my demonic sex dreams, right? But I quickly realized that this is not healthy. It's a symptom of perversion that's in the back of my mind that's manifesting in my dreams, in my demonic sex dreams. And so the Desert Fathers are giving me insight into how to control the demon of unchastity by controlling the demon of gluttony. So I have been noticing since I've been reading this that if I eat too much, especially before bed, or if by accident I eat garlic of all things, that I hate garlic, but if I do eat garlic, I have these demonic sex dreams, and usually have a wet dream. And so gluttony is tied with chastity. This is according to the Desert Father. So that's something I've been working on, trying to eat less. I mean, I'm about 15 pounds overweight anyway. So I want to eat less and control get control of my gluttony, and then have a more chaste and pure sexuality, not be like staring at sexy women on the street all the time, which is a tendency, an old habit of mine, which is hard to kill. And then with avarice, like just being controlling over like money or possessions and that sort of attachment. We all have that. I'm not really tackling that right now because I'm poor. And it's not my primary concern. And then the self-esteem obviously is the mother of all those prideful sins and all those vices having to do with pride. And but I'm tackling gluttony, and then I'll take it from there. But certainly pride is the main one. That's sort of like the big boss battle that's going to have to take place at the end. Ultimately, is self-esteem, and the way to conquer that is to love everyone equally, and to love unselfishly, and to not have favorites, and to love your enemies as you love your most beloved family members, and to be detached in that way. So certainly sounds good in theory. Am I close to living that? No, I'm not. I mean, I have my favorites, and I do love my enemies in theory, but if they annoy me, I'm genuinely annoyed. So I have a lot of work to do with self-esteem, obviously.
Yeah, same here. I struggle with gluttony too, but thank God I've been noticing it and praying about it a lot. So I'm working on it too. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I primarily eat for pleasure. I mean, I don't care how nutritious the food is, generally speaking. Like if it's sweet, I like it. If it's salty, I like it. If it's oily, I like it. If it's fat, I like it. If it's crunchy, I like it. I've been eating my whole life for pleasure. Like a pig, If I open a bag of chips, I eat the whole bag of chips. Like if I open a bag of cookies, I'll eat the whole bag of cookies. I'm just a glutton. So it's a really obvious sin that I need to get control of. And we're not supposed to eat just for pleasure. Now there is pleasure associated with it by the grace of God. He's a loving God, a merciful God. He gives us pleasure, but we abuse that. I abuse that. You can speak for yourself, but I abuse that. So I'm going to have to start eating less and eat not for pleasure primarily, but eat primarily to keep my body alive and keep me functioning so that I can work for God, and that I can pray, and that I can grow closer to God. And it's going to help our prayer life if we can manage to eat less, eat more simply, eat only nutritional stuff, and eat less junk. It's going to help with our prayer life. So I think that's a big motivating factor if we can get closer to God by cutting back on some of the self-indulgence with food. Don't you agree?
Yep, I agree. So when you go to mass, are you usually by yourself, or do you go with anybody?
No, I always go alone. I don't have any Catholic friends. I mean, you're one of, 5 or 6 Catholic friends I have on planet Earth.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. That's funny. Yep, I know it's so funny. Following God is a lonely world, but it's so funny because it's only lonely. It's only earthly lonely, but my heart is full. Like
Yeah.
my heart is full of peace, love, and joy. So, sometimes I have a problem with the gluttony, and I have a problem with anger. Sometimes I get a short temper, so I'll get pissed really quick. Those are my two issues. But the gluttony is obvious because I'm not eating, I'm smoking. As you'll see in this video, I'm smoking a lot, but that's what I do. So I gotta totally work on that even harder. But so it's funny though, going to mass by yourself. It's it's nice, yeah. If you picture like going with your family and stuff, that is nice. But it's actually I enjoy by myself. I enjoy by myself most of the time. Actually, I don't know why. I could pray with full concentration.
Yeah.
I could concentrate on the Lord. Why am I there? Why am I totally? So I guess it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just want to pray when I'm at church. Come try to get there 10, 15 minutes early, pray on my kneeler, and pray through the mass, pray after the mass. And on Fridays we do adoration for, just 10, 15 minutes after mass, Friday mornings before church. And it's the highlight of my week, doing that adoration. And then on Sunday, depending on which church I go to, which mass I go to, sometimes there's adoration after the mass on Sunday. And so I get a little bit of adoration in, once or twice a week, depending on how often I go to mass during the week.
Nice, nice. Do you say the Rosary often?
Yeah, I say it every day. I missed it once this week because I stayed up late helping my wife with some stuff, but I don't want to talk about her. She doesn't want to be included in my trip. But yeah, if I'm not like exceptionally busy in some evening, then I pray every night. And I don't claim to pray it well, but I'm hoping I'll learn to pray better with each passing month and with each passing year, especially if I get control over my gluttony and some of the other principal vices that should help my prayer life. Because right now I'm just burning through my prayers. Like, I got to get this over with because, Satan's pissed off that I'm praying, and he hates the Rosary, and he's going to interrupt me, and he's going to give me distracting thoughts. So I gotta get this over with. So I got it done. It's always been my way with the Rosary. It's like a nervous energy. Like I can't relax. Rarely, sometimes I get peace and a calm, and I can take it at a regular pace. But usually I'm just nervous, and it's my temperament, anyways. I've got a nervous temperament. I really need to relax. But my most calm prayer life is during the Mass. That's when I'm most calm, before the Blessed Sacrament, especially. And that's when I'm at peace. That's when I'm calm, and I don't have this 15 or 20 minutes of repetition that I need to go through in the meditation and the images. I tend to get nervous when I have that burden on me, but I'm persisting with it. With my Rosary, I'm making baby steps, making progress every day when I pray it. And but there's still that sort of nervousness that I'm struggling with during the Rosary in particular. If it's short prayers, like I do about 20 minutes of prayer in the morning, and then 20 minutes in the evening, and then I do my Rosary after that. So it's a lot of prayer. But the most nervous I get is during the Rosary. I don't know why. I just feel like it's like, am I going to be able to complete this? I just feel like I need to. I feel like I'm in that the Colosseum, and the lions are there, and I'm. You know what I mean?
It's funny what I do, because I felt that too. Of course, right? Am I going to finish my? So you know what I do? I found this Gregorian chant, but it's very few words, right? And the music's wonderful on it. And I play that, right?
Nice.
And that puts me at a nice peace and a calm right away.
Yeah.
And what I do is I'll do one meaningful decade. One decade, meaningful, nice and slow with concentration. And then a lot of times I'll catch myself, I'll do a second decade and then a third, because it's going so nice and, so smooth.
Nice.
So it really helps. So maybe try to find you one of those. It really helps. I mean, it works right away. It lets you concentrate on it. I forget the name of the one I have, but it's just a Gregorian chant, and it's very few words, and then the music goes for 3 minutes, calm, relaxing music, bell, and then it comes, and I'll tell you what, that does wonders. It does
Yeah.
wonders.
One thing that calms me during my rosary is, I have a little shrine, right? I have a camera in there now, so you can see that's my shrine there. So I have
It's awesome.
I have the candles, and I have the incense burning, and I've got images around me. So that really helps with the calming down the nerves. And I'm either looking at a religious image, or I'm looking right at the crucifix, which is my favorite, or I'm looking at the smoke rising. Like when I do the descent of the Holy Spirit, I like to see the smoke rising from my incense, because I picture the Holy Spirit plunging down, and then it's causing that smoke to billow up. That's one of my images that I use. So I have different techniques to try to enter into the calm and the peace of the prayer. And of course, having the images for each of the 20 mysteries, I do have them there so I can glance up at those. And so I do get a lot out of the rosary every day. I do have a certain amount of calm, but I don't feel like it's rare that I have a really deep peace and a really deep meditation and a really satisfying rosary. Usually, and there are other considerations also, like time constraints and my wife, constantly wanting this or that, just nice stuff like let's eat, or let's,
Yep.
watch our favorite show or whatever it is. But
Yep.
I can't completely ignore the fact that I've got her there too. But
That's right.
but she gives
That's
me
right.
she gives me my space, and I really appreciate that. And I do my prayers. I take 20 minutes to do my rosary or whatever it is, and it's a work in progress. So it's something I definitely want to improve on.
Yeah. Maybe try that with one a nice calming music or a Gregorian chant or something. I think you'll enjoy it. It works for me. And like I said, I think it's better, because I think if I just breeze through a whole rosary real quick, or if I do a decade with meaning, nice and calm, and really meaningful and open-hearted, and I think that probably is worth more anyways,
For sure.
I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah. So
for sure. I've been counseled by priests to split up my rosary, so I could do like what you do, just do a decade here, a decade there, and like you said, it's quality over quantity for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's more of a nervous compulsion on my part, because it took me 7 years to pray the rosary every day. It took me 7 years of saying I've got to start praying the rosary every day, and like I memorized the rosary, within the first couple of years, just here and there, just sort of praying it sporadically. But I had it memorized, but it was just a struggle. It's a struggle to get started doing it, and now at least I'm in the habit of praying it every day. But when you think about the opposition in the spirit world, the opposition to the rosary, there are few activities that we do that are so heavily targeted by Satan and his demons as the rosary. I think it's one of the most targeted practices of any Catholic is the rosary. So I think there's a reason why it took me 7 years to say it daily, and I think there's a reason why it's going to take me another 7 years to say it properly. But a lot of the saints have said that if you could pray one Hail Mary properly, you'd be a saint. There are levels upon levels upon levels of prayer, and I'm at the very bottom with the very baby step of saying, hey, maybe one day I could learn to pray too. Wouldn't that be nice? That's about the level I'm at.
Got you. No, it's funny. I noticed that. I'm remembering my previous and now in my. It's amazing when it gets deeper and deeper, and it's amazing. I definitely don't say the rosary enough, but when I do say the rosary and I'm done, I feel like I'm floating. I feel like I'm floating off of my chair a few inches for at least 5 minutes. It's amazing.
Mm.
It really is. So, yeah, the prayer, and like I said, how I mentioned earlier, how we don't know how important prayer is, but
Yeah.
there's some about when you can just when we can get it together to pray meaningfully with the open heart and just I don't know what you call it, the stronger praying. I don't know what you call it, right? But when you get there, it's amazing, and it's wow, it blows my mind to think that that could even get deeper and deeper and stronger, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. But it's definitely gotten deep over this year, so yeah, it's amazing. But
So, is
but
there anything else before we wrap up? Because I'm gonna go see, I'm gonna go meet my wife at a friend's place. Is there anything else, like a topic that you wanted to touch on today? You're always welcome to come back, but since we're talking now, is there anything else important that you'd like to touch on, or any questions you have for me?
let's see. It's so funny. And yeah, I should have wrote a few down. There was a few I had, but I'm not remembering them now. But I still enjoy. I enjoy a freestyle talk, anyways.
Yeah.
Non-scripted is nice. So open heart to open heart. That's always good. So, but no. But a bright side of I have a 2-year-old, and my wife's pregnant with our second. So that's some good news.
Ah,
So
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. So,
Yeah.
um, but that's it. So maybe
Well, I
some
wanted to ask
prayers.
you, yeah, I'll be praying for you and your family and your wife and your children. I wanted to ask you, have you met anyone on my channel, my YouTube channel, that you're communicating with regularly or praying with in the union of prayer? Have you met people like, my friend Matthew Murdoch and the Lisney brothers, or these guys? Are you in contact with anyone from the channel or no?
No, it was only Matthew Murdoch, a few emails back and forth, and that was it. So nope, not yet. But I haven't reached out neither to many, so I should try. But it was only Matthew a few times. I enjoyed your guys' interview, by the way.
Oh
He's a
yeah.
trip, man. I love him. And like kind of like I commented, it's so funny. He's like stuck. He's like, this is too good to be true, like it's too good to be true. So he's resisting with all he can, anything but to surrender. It's so funny, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Turning the skeptical turning his skeptometer to 11, and just it's so funny. Yeah.
I can relate to that, in I always relate religion to romantic love. That's the image that God uses in Holy Scripture a lot, and that's the image I like to use. And I resisted the advances of my wife, my beautiful wife, when she was sort of courting me 24, 25 years ago. And I resisted pretty firmly until I had a dream. I had a dream where I had to choose to kiss her, which signified I'm all in, or to walk away and never have contact with her. And in this dream, I turned, I looked at her, I took off her sun hat, and I kissed her. And then the very next day, I woke up, woke up in love with her. And then we were walking in that very same field of my dream, and we'd never walked in that field before. It's a field called Columbia Lake, and I told her about my dream, and she was blown away that my attitude had changed. But it's the same thing with religion and with God. He's chasing us like the hound of heaven. He's chasing us down. He's chasing Matthew Murdoch down. He's chasing Aaron Raw down. He's chasing Matt Dillahunty down. He's chasing everyone down. He's chasing you and I down. He's chasing us down because we're not fully in love with him yet. But that initial conversion anyway is like that submission, like you said. You give in, you give up, and you allow your heart to open. And this is one of your sayings, heart to heart, open heart to open heart. And I really like this analogy with romantic love and seduction. Very, very powerful. And I think everyone that converts to God is pleasantly surprised in that way. And it has that same thrill,
It's funny that you say that, because I see it as a marriage is how I always compare it.
Yeah,
I could see so many things that make sense when I compare it. Well, how is a marriage supposed to be? And then all of a sudden I understand passages of the Bible, and I understand questions I had, and I understand. So when you compare it to a marriage a lot, it just makes so much sense.
for sure.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah, I mean, we have to be a better spouse to Christ. I mean, this is it. I mean, we just need to, once we know that we've been selfish, we need to repent, and we need to come back to Jesus and clean up our heart, that space in our heart, so that he's comfortable there. That he'll come with God the Father and the Holy Trinity and the Holy Spirit, and they'll dwell in our heart. But if it's cluttered up with a bunch of junk, he's not going to be comfortable there. God the Son, God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, they're not going to be comfortable dwelling in our heart. I mean, they might come and visit once in a while, but to dwell there, to take up dwelling in our heart, we're going to have to really renovate and clean it up, freshen it up, and then maintain the relationship. Because like Jesus said, if you clean up for him and then you turn away, the demons are really happy to come in and occupy that space, and 7 times more demons will come in. So I've had such an ordeal with Satan and his demons while I was an atheist. I had so many demons that were taking advantage of me, and I was in the mire and the muck for so many years, 25 years as an atheist, and I was a Satanist near the end for a couple of years. And so if 7 times more demons are coming in once I clean up my heart, and if I turn away from Christ, God forbid, 7 times more demons are going to come in. That's going to be an ugly picture, I can tell you.
All right. I know. All right, last question, and then we'll call it a day. But I was gonna say, I heard you mention one time about R and Ra, that you like him, you enjoy him, and I just want to ask you how do you how do you enjoy R and Ra? I watched some of his videos, and I could stand about 5 minutes until I'm like, this guy gets on my nerves. All he does, you could see, all he does is hate God so much, and that's his fuel. I hate God. He don't exist, but I hate him. It's just like, oh my gosh, this guy's funny, man. All biased. Not one word in the Bible is true. Not one word is of truth in the Bible. I'm like, look at this guy.
Yeah, it's that.
It's funny.
It's that childish. It's that childlike rebellion that is so over the top. It is so endearing. It's like a little tantrum of a little baby. Throwing his spaghetti on the floor, and he thinks he's done some real damage, to his loving father. That's why I love him.
That's a good picture.
That's why I love him, because he's not indifferent. He's not. You can meet someone that's indifferent to God. You can meet these people. It's cold. It's limp. It's lifeless. It's not. It doesn't get me excited, but when someone hates God, that gets me excited. But that's not the main reason that I like Aaron Ra. It's because I had a couple of long conversations with him, edited conversations, so you hear a good chunk of it. But just that contact, that real contact with this real man, I know that he has a big heart. I know that he's a lovable guy. I know that he's warm, generous. He's a classic liberal. And I'm neither left nor right, but I mean, I love the liberals. They have a certain perverted generosity and a perverted love that I find really endearing because it's broken, But no, I really do have a soft spot in my heart for Aaron Ra, and I mean, he may end up burning in hell, but I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, never, much less someone that I have a certain fondness and affection for. I don't think he I don't think he knows or likes me. I mean, I reach out to him once in a while. He doesn't have time for me, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, if God willing, he makes it to heaven, and if God willing, you and I make it to heaven, we can all love each other with open hearts, and we can be discovering what it is to be human and what it is to be divine, and to participate in the life of the Trinity. For all eternity, we'll be discovering that and laughing all the way. And, we'll see at the general judgment how each person's story plays out. This is one of the things that I like meditating on, the general judgment, where we get to see the story of everyone. And people are obsessed with these stupid productions on Netflix or on HBO or whatever the current flavor of the month is. They're so obsessed with these stupid stories with the sex and violence and intrigue and the plot twists and whatever. It's a joke. It's a really childish joke compared to the reality of one child. Or like you said, with an aborted child, the story of that one aborted child will have plenty of time during the general judgment. Even if it's outside of time, even if it's in eternity, we're going to have plenty of time, quote unquote, to explore each and every story. And God wants us to experience that. He wants us to see how good he is and how he works for our salvation. It's amazing. So I look at people not as enemies. I look at people as future comrades up in heaven, you know. And if God forbid some of us end up burning in hell, and it's a Catholic dogma that that's a real possibility, and it is a reality for at least some people, the populations we don't know, but the church forbids me to say that hell is empty. So I mean, I view everyone with the benefit of doubt that God is going to do everything he can to bring them to heaven. So I see everyone in that light, that they're going to be in heaven with me, and so I can't really make fun of them here. I can't really be an enemy to them here, because that's a good thing. That's not ultimate reality. And if they do, God forbid, end up in hell, there's no point in beating them up here in this fallen world. I mean, their fate is bad enough. You know what I mean? That's true,
and that's a nice thought. It's a good picture to meditate on. That you're right. The way everybody's personal story and how we all played out, that's an amazing thought. I like that a lot. But thank you, brother, Thanks. For your time. And our next round we'll do where where you'll guide the conversation a little more and ask me more questions. Maybe I do that pretty well, because I'm down to talk about anything. So I'll just jump around, and so maybe you'll guide the next one a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, we can send me some talking points, or I'll come up with some. Maybe I'll come up with some topics and just put you through the ringer and see how you fare.
Nice. Sounds good.
We can do a mini inquisition. I'll find out if you're really Catholic or not.
Sounds good.
So nice talking to you. Nice seeing your face. And God bless you and yours. Congratulations on the new baby on the way. And take care of yourself and your family there. And we'll talk very soon, okay?
Thank you. Love you, brother. Thank you for your time. I will continue to pray for you as I always do. And God bless you. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. God bless.